Alright, so welcome to How to Fork Ethereum. We're going to be using Ethereum tooling that they're basically tools that come with the Geth implementation of Ethereum, and they allow you to essentially deploy your own Ethereum network, and it has certain applications that it makes up a whole stack of different components of a network that that essentially can help describe your network, and it's a little confusing, I know. Once I get into it, it'll be a little more clear. So the tool that we use to deploy a network is called Puppeth. Right here it says, "Welcome to Puppeth, your Ethereum private network manager."
That's the tool?
That's the tool that comes with Geth, yes. So to use this tool, the best way to use it is to have a remote server that you can SSH into, and then that way, once your remote server is set up, and you properly configure it, then you can make it work with this tool. And the way we're going to be doing that is we're going to be using AWS, and I'll start getting into that. So first things first, this is AWS, and for anyone that's not familiar with it, Amazon offers a lot of web services for basically any sort of web service that involves server infrastructure or SaaS, IaaS, infrastructure as a service, service as a service. But that's not that important right now. Let's just get into how to do this. So the way that we can go about it is that we can go into services and then go into an EC2, which essentially EC2 services like Amazon's server infrastructure that you can use to basically, they have predefined images that represent a system, like an OS and different software on that system. And so we're going to be using that to deploy a server that we can run Puppeth on, that we can run our Puppeth. It's Puppeth.
Okay.
So Puppeth is the tool that Ethereum has created for you to be able to deploy your own Ethereum network, essentially. Right now I'm already running 3 instances. I guess I can give you a preview of the final product. So essentially what we're going to be making is this. I'm not quite used to using a Mac, so you have to bear with me a little bit.
But they charge for this too, don't they?
Yeah, so if you're going to be doing this, your first year on Amazon is free for certain services. So you can only deploy, for example, a micro on the free tier for the first year, and they give you, you can run like 1 server for free every month for the first year of that capacity, which is, the micro is like the smallest one they have. I'm just going to remember this because I can't.
Command C, Command D.
Oh, it's command. That's why. Okay. Maybe I picked the wrong one. Oh yeah, I did. Whoops. Yeah, the medium was the minor. So the one I tried looking at was the minor. Okay, so essentially with the Puppeth, we can deploy these applications, and this application has shows us statistics of our Ethereum network. Right now, this is a test network we have running, and on this test network, it's running the same type of sealing mechanism. So Ethereum runs on proof of work, but with Puppeth, you can also run on something called proof of authority, which is essentially a more private type of network.
Can you explain proof of authority a little bit more?
So proof of authority, essentially, you have certain designated nodes that act as authority nodes, and these nodes would essentially approve the different transactions going on through the network versus and they also like push the network forward just for running.
So they're like the block producers?
Yeah, exactly. So they produce the blocks in the network, and versus proof of work, you're solving complicated problems essentially to mine on the network and get a block reward, and then that proof of work, that's how it will push.
Like those miners are proof of work.
Yeah.
For the proof of authority, are you setting who can be an authorized like node in AWS, or are you doing it on in Ethereum?
You would set that in Ethereum. So you would have to essentially, like when you first deploy a proof of authority network, you would have a predefined authority nodes, and then to get a new node into the network, you would have to vote between all the authority nodes.
I think you can set it like 66% or more than half or something like that, right? So like.
So it's kind of bare bones. So what you really need to do is always have an odd number of authority nodes. Otherwise, let's say you have 4 authority nodes and 2 say yes, we want a new node, and the other 2 say no, then
Gridlock.
yeah, exactly. So
Another question on talk about the energy efficiency between proof of work and proof of authority.
so proof of authority would be a lot more energy efficient because you don't need like a high-end GPU to mine complicated block rewards towards like the future. So for example, for running this sealing node, you need to run it at least on a medium on AWS. Otherwise, I would try doing it on a smaller server, and it can't. It doesn't have enough.
So you're trading trust for efficiency.
Yeah.
So the more trust, the more efficient. The more trust you need to have in like an authority node, as opposed to proof of work, it's like less efficient. Right?
Yeah. Let me see if I have some notes on that so I can explain it a little better. Yeah, a benefit of proof of authority is because since you're not okay, I'm kind of blanking right now, but essentially I know that you can get a higher transaction per second on proof of authority. But either way, it seems like the community isn't going towards that type of network. They the problems that proof of work has, they essentially want to solve those problems with a proof of stake. I think a benefit of proof of authority would be more of like if you want to have a really private network where you want to do these transactions between different nodes, and you're not really interested in like monetizing from the network.
Enterprise level.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe kind of like more similar to Hyperledger, I would say.
When you mentioned proof of stake, that's simply a consensus among all of the nodes.
Hmm.
So one other question. So you mentioned that proof of authority is not as resource intensive as proof of work, but the microserver was too small. You had to go up to the medium server. So even though it's proof of authority is still less resource intensive than proof of work, it still has a certain level of demand. So proof of work would require a medium level server or even higher, perhaps. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, so proof of work definitely requires at least a medium or higher. Proof of authority, I think you don't. I think with the micro, you could get by on a proof of authority.
But you said you started off with the micro, but you were having challenges.
That was with when I was doing it with proof of work, but with proof of authority,
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure I was able to uh, just use a micro because it's not trying to solve any complicated problems. It's just literally pushing
So
the block higher,
it's
block
possible
number.
to set up an AWS remote server at a micro level and run proof of authority, and that would be sufficient resources.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very good.
All right, so yeah, this is what we're making. um, over here, does that say Block Explorer?
Can you
Okay.
make that a little bigger? The screen?
It doesn't scale very well.
Oh, no, there you go.
This is another, also like, so this is called fstats. That's how the name of this application. And in Puppeth, there's various different applications that it'll let you deploy.
I'm sorry, what was that name of the application?
Fstats. Like you can go to fstats.net and it'll show the stats of the real Ethereum network.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's actually pretty interesting to show. So this is the real Ethereum network, and they have a lot more nodes than I do.
Yeah.
It's the same application, just copy for your own personal one.
Hmm. So today what we're going to be deploying will be the fstats and a miner and this dashboard, which this dashboard is convenient because it can instruct the users how to connect to your network. So I think I'm going to start, I guess, from the beginning with AWS. We want to first create a server for our to deploy these applications onto. So we would go to launch instance, and then here you would pick an image. I usually just pick the first default. For the first application, we're going to do just fstats. So for that one, micro is sufficient. And then we want to configure the instance details. The defaults should be good here. What I like to do here, though, is go to advanced details, and I have certain configurations that I like to put in there, so that way when the server starts up, it'll just run this configuration for me, and I don't have to worry about going into the SSHing into the server and running those commands. So essentially what this does is it installs the updates on the server, installs Docker, because Docker is required for Puppeth to work properly, and Docker Compose as well.
Where'd you get this? Where'd you get that script?
That script, I got tired of typing it in manually, so I wrote it.
Oh, snap. Okay.
I have a guide also where that script is
You can,
on as well.
you can put this on the GitHub afterwards too.
Okay.
So that's all there.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna be posting pretty much what I'm going over today, but it'll be all in a written format. Okay. So I guess just so to give an understanding of how I came to the script, I came to the script just because when I had to set up Docker on the server, I followed the instructions of how to install Docker, and all I knew is that Puppeth required Docker and Docker Compose. So this command, if you're not familiar with Linux, sudo is for having admin privileges. Then you're installing updates. You install Docker, which I got from following the Docker instructions. I start Docker on the server. I give admin privileges to my Docker, so that Docker can run correctly on when you use Puppeth, and then I install Docker Compose using this command, and it's possible that this might be outdated already from when I first made this, so just to keep a note of that. And then also I did some privilege thing here
What's
as well.
Docker Compose?
Docker Compose?
Yeah.
I can't quite think of the definition off the top of my head right now.
But
But
Docker and Docker Compose are two different entities, correct?
Yeah, Docker Compose is like an extension of Docker. It's like a tool. I believe it's so you can write the Docker Compose files that you can run to create containers and stuff like that. But I could be completely wrong. So then the next step is adding storage. I like to keep this at default as well. Stats did give me oh no, that was a memory problem. Never mind. So that's fine. If you run stats on the server, you're only going to want to have stats on a micro, because otherwise you will run into some memory issues. Tags. This stuff is good to do, but I'm gonna skip it. Configure security group. Security groups. Okay, so this is important. You need to have certain security groups so that Puppeth can basically use SSH into the ports correctly, and so Ethereum nodes can listen into the network correctly as well. And the ones that are important for this are so we're gonna create a new one. Add rule. Create a new security group. One second, let me just look at this really quickly. I'm like not seeing the button.
Create new up there. Button.
Create new.
Or it's select,
Okay, so that's a button right there.
Oh, bang you up.
I could not see the button. Okay, so right now we're going to keep SSH as default right there. You need to have a TCP rule for, I like to do 30,000 to 3999. The reason you want this open is because Ethereum nodes use 30 30,303 or something like that, and without that, they're not gonna be able to properly forward traffic. You also need UDP. The same ports, because like essentially this is running on peer-to-peer networking, and kind of like a torrenting, you just need certain protocols to be set up so it works correctly. And you want to have HTTP because that way you can access the website. I think that's it. So let's go to review and launch.
What was the HTTP set to?
80. And then I make these anywhere for now. It's not secure, but
Is that like if you're running like in Ohio or depending on the zone you're in? Is that what it's asking?
this thing right here, the anywheres?
Yeah, anywhere, the source.
So that's just saying like what IPs have access to these ports, essentially.
Okay.
So essentially anyone that knows about my server and knows what ports are open, and also has like
People run scanners all the time to see stuff like that.
yes.
All the time.
But I mean, you do need a private key though.
Yeah.
But I mean, if somehow they have access to your private key, then they can hack you. So
And since it's proof of authority, I guess it's not that big of a deal, since you're the only person who can really go to the network anyway. So.
And we're only going to do this for demonstration.
So once you launch a node running your own network, here's a coin. It could be legally considered a utility token.
Sure.
Is that like the defining line?
Not an attorney, but yeah.
Okay, everything looks good. I'm just verifying. And then I'm going to hit launch. So normally I would use my David key, but I'm not on my computer. So we're going to create a new key pair. Let's call this Ethereum new Ethereum net. Then we're going to download the key pair. Trying to move the mouse.
Does that mean the network's been hacked?
You're playing iTunes.
I was playing iTunes? Okay. Do you know where your downloads folder is? Or,
Yeah. Go to space.
sorry, what is it?
Space. Or option space. Put Finder.
Finder. Okay. All right, so I'm getting the private key, and
I want to put that on the main. Oh, that's fine.
we have to do some.
Edward Snowden, where you got like the curtain over you when you're doing the login.
Okay, I'm gonna hit launch here. Okay, cool. New Fnet. I acknowledge that I have access to the private key. So you just need this to be able to go into your server. And really, that's the only thing that's keeping hackers away. So super insecure, but for demonstration, it's okay. Okay, so that one is starting up. This next part might be a little complicated because I did it on Windows and I'm not sure if it's the same thing on a Mac. Do you know where your Finder was again?
Option space.
Option space. Okay. Finder. Do you know if there's like, you know how in Windows there's C drive? Do you have some kind of main drive type of thing?
What are you looking for?
Basically, there's a folder. Oh, you know what? I'll just get the error message and then I'll know where to go. Okay, so we'll hit the error and figure it out. Okay, so for this new one, I want to get the IP so I can use it for Puppeth. Alright, so here at Puppeth, this is something that you can get when you install Geth. And all I've done so far is I typed in the command line Puppeth. That starts up this program. We're going to specify a network for it. Call it new ethnet again. And it created it's going to create a configuration in this folder for this network.
Is that what you're looking for?
And no, it's not. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create the network. So we're going to do configure new Genesis. And then it gives you it gives you the option to choose whether you want to do proof of work or authority. I'm going to do proof of work because I think it has a little less configuration. Which accounts should be pre-funded? None. We don't need one. Pre-funded. Specify your chain network ID if you want an explicit one. Now we can keep it random. Anything fun to embed into the Genesis block? No. After that, you're going to go to Manage Existing Genesis and export your Genesis configuration. And save that into a JSON file, and you basically have your network right there. But now you need nodes that are running your network, essentially. Because essentially Ethereum is just a distributed network of nodes that are all on the same network. Which is why they say that if somehow someone had control of more than 50% of the nodes, then that's how they would be susceptible.
So then you can write the blocks.
Yeah. So we're going to start by deploying fstats. So we're going to go to 4, then 1, and then connect another server, 1, ec2-user. So you want to put ec2-user because that's kind of the default admin name, I guess, within the server for AWS. And that didn't copy what I thought it copied. Okay. Let me refresh to make sure that the server is up.
Command R.
Okay, yeah, it's running. Does copy paste work into your terminal?
Yeah.
5485. Okay, cool. What?
Oh, there you go.
So are you trying to add a node right now?
So this is just the application that gives you statistics for your network. This doesn't run the node. So the node will be the next step.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the error that I wanted. Okay, perfect. So I need to move that private key I made earlier. I'm going to move it into that folder that says right there. Essentially, it's saying that it didn't find the private key. Hey Michael, can you help me? I don't know how to explore your Explorer.
Okay, so
I'm trying to go to users mockin1.ssh.
Mockin1.
And then it's not going to be a folder that already
It's a,
exists.
it's a hidden one, right?
Also that.
I have to show hidden.
You might have to make a terminal in there and just create the folder also, because I don't think it's created by default.
This here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once the net stats is up, it'll keep track of any nodes that go on your network, as long as the nodes are configured to be discoverable by etstats. Puppeth makes their components so that they're set up to be discoverable. And then Puppeth has some other components to it, such as it has a block explorer. The only drawback about the block explorer that it comes with, however, is I think it only keeps track of parity nodes, and which is kind of ironic because it seems like all the nodes that we're deploying are guest nodes. So
Well, nobody wants to get hacked.
like wait, what? Sorry, what was it?
Oh, I mean, just like, is that parody hack?
Oh.
Like, I don't know.
Well, no, it's just like it's ironic because you'll have your block explorer and then you'll be confused because you won't be able to explore any of the blocks because all the stuff that you created was on guest, essentially. So, unless I'm doing something wrong, which honestly, all these tools are still very in early development, and they're really good tools. But it's hard to get a lot of feedback on if something messes up.
There you go. This is what you're looking for?
Yes.
That's
So
it,
you already have an IDRSA thing?
I guess.
Can you make a new folder?
Where? Here?
Yeah, right there. Just so I can move those in there, and then I'll replace them back once it's done. Because I don't want to. I'm just gonna move these in there for now.
Okay.
And I'll put it back afterwards.
Okay.
All right, so
Skip that. Cool.
can I just do /users here? Like
Yep,
this?
you can copy paste that into there.
All right, so you guys see what's going on. All right, so we are in that folder, or it's looking for the private key, and SSH is looking for an IDRSA, so I'm going to just basically convert it into its proper format, running a software known as OpenSSL. -in, specify the private key, and then -out IDRSA. Okay. How do I rename? Crap. I'll just rename it from Explorer. All right, cool. So we'll go back to Puppeth. Yes, it's probably gonna fail. 4, 1. Connect another server. All right, so now it didn't give me the error. I specify yes here. I want to SSH into it. Server not ready for Puppeth. Okay, so I guess something went wrong with my previous script. Oh, I know what went wrong. I forgot to put a line. Whoops. Okay, that's unfortunate. Okay. It was a bash script, and I forgot to put this is a bash script as the first line, which is a command that you got to put for bash scripts. So I'm gonna have to SSH into the server now and do that. Basically, I'm just gonna show the server configuration process manually. All right.
You're good? You can handle Mac?
Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I know enough Mac now to finish this up. Okay.
Let's go back to your own. That's okay. Dave?
Okay. Did I pick the wrong network? That's probably what happened. Oh, I did. Are 2 open? It is required that your private key files are not accessible by others. This private key will be ignored. Okay. I did not get this error before. Any of you have any experience with private keys?
Just a hair.
Permissions are too open. Okay.
I don't think enough to touch this.
Okay, it seems like they did something similar to us. Appears that you're trying to use the wrong key file. The file in a .pub extension.
I like your song download list down there. Cuida de Luna.
That's Michael's. This is Michael's PC.
Wait for you.
Quédate Luna.
Or you wait for the moon.
Wait, wait for the moon. Probably have a line. Need to remove pub extension from the file name. Oh, maybe that's why. No, that's not why. What? Keys need to be only readable by you. This is probably why. Okay. P. Okay. Perfect. Almost had a heart attack. Sudo -y. Alright, so now we just gotta wait for this install.
What was your goal here with this thing? Finally got to.
So like what was going on there?
Yeah. What were you trying to do here?
So right now we're setting up the we're properly setting up the private key
Oh, okay.
so that our server can connect,
Okay.
and also so that and so we're going into the server using SSH so that I can install Docker, because I didn't, when I did the script earlier,
Okay.
I forgot a line,
Okay.
and that made it so the script probably didn't run.
I got you.
And so
you're on AWS's server here.
yeah.
You SSH'd into it,
Mm-hmm.
putting Docker on it.
Yes.
Let you do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. So right here is the command to install Docker. Then we're going to start Docker with sudo service docker start. That's giving Docker sudo permission. And then the next one will be for installing Docker Compose. And then give write privileges to Docker Compose as well. Okay, now when we go back here, we're going to deploy network components, go to stats, we'll connect another server, ec2-user at, go get the IP again. Alright, before I do that, at this step, once your server is set up, what you can do is also you can create an image. So you can go here to actions, and then you can do image, create image, and what that'll do is it'll basically copy the state of your current server and create an image out of that. So that way, next time you can just launch your server, and it'll already have Docker installed. So you won't have to do that step again.
This isn't shadow state, is it?
Shadow state? I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. What is shadow state?
Well, I use it for connected devices, or my company uses it for connected devices. So when they're not online, there's a shadow state that you can still interact with through the user app. So it's kind of like that saved image, but it's a saved image of the physical device. So I don't know if it's the same.
Oh, I see. So it's like, so they're not actually on the server, but they're kind of still interacting with resources that are saved?
The shadow state is just like the middle state, using shadows.
Okay. No, I don't think it's that.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is in their IoT section.
Okay. Enter remote server's address. Yes. It's verified Docker is installed. Which port should SSATs listen on? 80 is fine. Allow port sharing. I'm gonna go with no. What should the secret password be? Secret. What existing? I guess so. It gives you a lot of options. What happened? Repository name must be lowercase. I'm just getting all types of new errors today. I mean, the name looks lowercase to me, so let's try again. Keep existing black. Clear out blacklist, start over. Like, I've never seen this question before. I guess this must be a new update to Puppeth. Clear out blacklist and start over. No. All I can think of is we had capitals when we first created the network. So I guess we'll just recreate the network really quickly. You know how to kill a process on Mac? I'll just start a new thing.
Do you normally use Windows?
Yeah. So this is super confusing. It's just my laptop doesn't have an HDMI. So kind of winging it on Michael's Mac. Okay. Puppeth. Just gonna go over the same stuff I did earlier, but as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, though, feel free to ask.
Still trying to kill it?
This one over here? I just left it over there. Which server do you want to interact with? Connect to another server. Okay, we're back. EC2-user. No.
Backing up to the beginning, this forking Ethereum or Ethereum fork or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Just kind of along the same lines as the fork that Bitcoin took.
So usually when they talk about forks on like a massive scale, it's usually they're talking about they want to create or they're implementing like a big feature into the code that essentially they have to on most cases, because I think they have smaller forks as well, they will separate from that network and create essentially their own version of Bitcoin.
Okay.
So like I know there's been some like Bitcoin Cash was probably something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is because there was already like with Bitcoin, there's already a lot of people with computers that were deciding am I going to be mining for Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash?
You know,
Whereas this is more like you're bringing your own computing power, as I understand it,
For Ethereum or?
or well, just for the proof of authority at least.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if you're talking, so yeah, but he was kind of more wondering about like forking, like the forks that exist,
or why we're trying to fork Ethereum.
or why we're trying. Okay, so
But here, I think,
I would say cloning is maybe better.
better term.
Yeah, because forking is like almost I mean, it's like the same
Yeah.
language. It's just on a near on a different data set.
Yeah.
But I guess the forking with Bitcoin or Ethereum had previously was more an existing one with lots of blocks there. And what you're really forking is the fact that you are going to two different paths at the same time. Whereas the forking which we are doing here is really taking a copy of the code at a point in time
Mm-hmm.
to start our own
Sidechain
Genesis
is it would be
our
sidechain
own,
or
our new tree. It's like you're
It would be your own
button
chain.
starting our own new tree with
Um,
no records, no
I'm
branches.
guessing that's probably in the plans that
Except it's
to
not
help
the
people
version
make their own
of
side
the
chains,
current
but I haven't heard about that. That's a
Ethereum
good question.
has no code.
I don't know if you could like make a side chain using this.
Because
We're off on our
yeah, off our own at this point. What I was trying to say is what we're trying to do today is really taking the current code of Ethereum,
Mm-hmm.
making a copy of it and starting our own new tree,
Mm-hmm.
which has nothing to do with that, whereas the fork which happened with Bitcoin or Ethereum, etc., that was really, you're already in the tree and then you're starting two different branches from there and both branches would exist, but you're sticking with this one or that one. That was the Ethereum Classic or the new Ethereum. Both were existing afterwards. It's just that you're getting there. Whereas this is more if I want to start my own, I'm really just copying the code at a point in time.
Yeah. So I guess to be more politically correct, this is more like a clone.
Okay.
And you can, however, like if you wanted to fork, which is kind of difficult, not in the sense that doing it is not that hard, but like you would need a good reason to do it. Like you would need to know, you would have to have a really good design decision as to why you would want to fork it.
now for this fork, we're not doing any update to the Ethereum code,
No, but you could if you wanted to.
but on the forked chain.
On the forked chain?
Yeah, like
So this is just deploying. So this one, no. But what you could do is like you could get, since it's all open source, you could download all the like you could download Ethereum and get the open source code that's the Geth implementation of Ethereum, and that's written in Go, and then you could write Go and like change the actual code, and then compile it, and it'll compile, like you can compile it into the Geth and the Puppeth and everything, and you would have the same tools, and then you could essentially actually fork it.
so is this what we're doing today? Is this more of a soft fork?
This is more of a clone, like
Okay.
it'll be the same Ethereum network.
Now, and with the virtual private servers that are running in AWS, those servers are running Geth as well. Like, are they running? Like, or are they just processing?
So the first one, the one we're doing right now, is just running an application that's going to listen to our network and give us statistics, and then like when we do the miner, it's going to run an actual
Oh, so the node miner is next step.
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and it worked. It looks like it worked. Wow, I think they just had a new update because all this information wasn't there before. All right. So crap. How do I? That works. So we got this, and just to show that it works, can go to that IP. And there we go. We have stats for the network. And right now there's no nodes on it.
Did you name the network yet?
It was I think the name was new test or something. new. But I don't see the name anywhere here.
You can label it the Luna network.
The Luna network.
So let's say like there's a transaction with like whatever token gets minted on this proof of authority network. You could use MetaMask, trade that between wallets, and then that transaction would show up here on the stats, or would it just show like which blocks are processing?
This shows more the processing of the network and like what nodes are registered on your network. It's like active miners and stuff like that.
But so that transaction that I just described, would that just show up on a normal Ethereum block explorer?
That would it would have to be on a block explorer that's configured for your network. So the block explorer also runs a Geth node.
That you would set up in AWS?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one option, yeah.
So what are some of the different applications? Well, so now that you've created a fork or a tree or a copy of Ethernet, what are some of the applications or use cases that you can do with it? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say, and it really, I guess, depends on how creative you can be, but some that would come to mind, it would be like private development with like a group of people.
Okay.
Or the Rinkaby network. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that one. That one's actually a network that's managed using Puppeth. And essentially that's a public test net. So that's another use case. You could use it for like a corporate blockchain to run private information through the network. Maybe also enterprise blockchains to run decentralized applications, but just for that enterprise. So it's separate from the actual network. So I guess to kind of give privacy to the network.
Yeah, if you were to set up a mining capability on your fork, it would be different from the mining on the main Ethereum fork. So any coins that you create on your tree could only be used within your micro world. It couldn't be used within the larger Ethereum world. Is that correct?
I think at this point in time, that's correct. I'm not up to date on all the development efforts, but I feel like one of the major hurdles is communication between networks, and that'll probably be an option in the future to like be able to go from network to network.
Oh, so in the future, say I could create a fork of my own, a copy, mine Ethereum on my own little universe, and then in the future that could be applicable to the main Ethereum network as well, perhaps someday.
That would be sort of defeating because the way I'm looking at this is you're creating this one because you want to have your own private network.
Okay.
And the only reason you might want to attach to the other Ethereum would be because I want somebody to pay me through the other Ether.
Okay.
Other than that payment, there's no real reason for us to
Interact.
other than
Okay.
Ethereum or Bitcoin or all of those could be just payment mechanisms.
Well, I think that the proof of authority is interesting with relation to like IoT. So for example, like every smart car is running a node, and then that is processing transactions in like the local autonomous car company. But so that's kind of what or like local governance.
Yeah,
I know that
local
Patrick
governance.
and
Yeah.
The sandcastle.
Yeah, that's what we want to do, but it's kind of. I think it's difficult right now to really.
It's a big, like it's a lot.
Yeah.
Huge industry stuff. I guess I don't know.
What's the What's the sandcastle?
It's like the local blockchain, like for setting up. I don't know what it like. So, for example, Wi-Fi mesh networking, I think, was one of the examples. Or
That
do
they
you
have?
remember some of the other like sandcastle use cases?
I can't quite remember right now. It's
Did
been
you
a-
say the local blockchain would be local to the Tampa Bay area?
Yeah, that's what they want to do essentially, and
Okay.
It's basically the public blockchain utility. So if you want to be running local dApps, like I want to do like some merchant services for like Tampa Bay-based companies, I can be using the Sandcastle as kind of like that network validator service.
Oh, okay.
So if I have tokens distributing in and around Tampa Bay,
Okay.
it's more like a local economy.
Well, I didn't realize somebody was taking on that effort to. So,
It'll grow. I mean, that's the direction. You know, it's like
uh,
there's going to be a lot of local.
right. There's probably, if one person has the idea, there's some 2 or 3 out there.
More like
2,000. 2,000.
Or if that few.
Well, I think that Uber and Airbnb are going to become decentralized in that it's like some local cooperative or local organization, but you're using the global tool set, but you're providing the services locally. So you want to retain more of that value locally because Uber and Airbnb taking 20-30% cuts is like somebody's going to come in and offer 2 to 3%, and there goes your market share.
Yeah, I guess right now I would say like this isn't for production ready type of applications, but it's good to understand as the Ethereum network matures and such,
Right.
then you can be ready to implement it towards whatever solution in the future.
So just to kind of review in general sense of what the steps were. So so the first step is getting a remote server on AWS, which you already had, and you use the medium as opposed to the micro. You could have used a micro, but we just went with the medium.
For this application, the stats we used the micro.
Oh, you did use micro. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of reviewing as far as we do our copy or our
Yeah.
report. So we have the AWS remote server, and then we had to did we create the personal key first, or did we do the Docker? No, we installed Puppeth first.
Okay, so the first step was we installed the Geth and Puppeth.
Okay.
So Geth is an implementation of Ethereum,
Okay.
and it's an implementation in the Go language, programming language, and with Geth comes the tool that we're using, this tool right here, and this is Puppeth.
Okay.
And after that, we set up the server. We did the server configuration, and then right before you launch it, you create a private key. And then with the private key, we did some more configuration so that we could connect into the server using Puppeth. And also, we use SSH to go into the server and install Docker.
So was Puppeth running locally on the computer? Or
Yes.
was it, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not running. Okay.
Yeah.
it's
So
not running.
yeah. So Puppeth runs. So this is Puppeth, and it's running locally, and it uses SSH as well to connect to the remote server.
Okay.
So that's why we had to do all those configurations so that Puppeth is able to connect.
Okay. Then
As long as the servers are running on AWS, the network will be up, right?
Yeah.
I know we're using the word AWS, but that's because none of us have our own servers. But if your company has a server sitting in the server room, you don't need an AWS.
That's
Just
correct.
that you and I usually personally don't have the resources to have a server running. That's the only reason we are using AWS.
Yeah, it's almost like cheaper just to get the cloud service than it is to invest in the server. But if you already have it, then yeah, it's just setup costs.
because a lot of my clients, sometimes they have these old servers which are super powerful. We put big portals on them, etc. So, not in this area, but
Yeah, it's nice
existing
because
machines can be.
proof of authority isn't based off of the computational power, right?
Right. So that's really good about proof of authority. Yeah.
So the Puppeth is running locally. We created the first private key to connect to the remote server, and then on the remote server is where we're running the Ethstat. That's running on the remote server.
Yes.
Okay. And that's where we stop.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah. So we just got stats up, and we're just gonna get a miner up, so we can show the node on Ethstats as well.
Okay.
And a miner is gonna require a medium.
Now, when you say a miner, is it with this miner? Is that the application that you can use to do actual mining if you wanted to, or what's the?
So essentially, a miner is running Geth,
Okay.
and it's just it's running Geth with the configuration to be recognized as a miner. And when you do that, essentially you're contributing your computational resources to mine the network, so that way you can get part of the block reward, and also you're producing blocks on the network. So that's why there's electricity costs, because you have to have your computer running and doing these computations.
Okay, but so all of this, we haven't actually, since we have that capability of creating mining to contribute to the overall Ethereum effort, we haven't actually created our independent tree just yet, or have we?
So this is our independent tree. We have created the independent tree.
Okay.
So when you set that server up, the micro instance running, that's when is that when it starts?
That's basically when it starts. Yeah. A
The
miner.
universe was created.
Yeah. the first miner.
But okay, but I guess it comes back to the original question of, if you set up this miner on on the remote server and it's doing mining, who's it doing mining for? Is it just for our particular tree, or is it
just for our particular tree?
Okay,
yeah.
that's okay. That's
And then, just so that I'm clear, these mining, me, Charlie here, we all would be setting up our own mining nodes in different servers to attach to this. So we don't have to be on their server. I might put my mining like this in front of us.
okay.
Or I could be setting it on a AWS server itself, another AWS server location, for which I have to pay the fees, etc.
Okay.
So, the mining would be separate to the deployment of the block itself, right? Because this Ethereum, all of us could put an instance of a miner up anytime and drop out of it anytime. So this has to run independently of that, right?
Right, this fork, you're saying runs independent of.
Like at this point, it's no longer a fork, right? Once you deploy it, it's not a fork; it's just an Ethereum network.
Oh, it's your own private.
Yeah, so there's no
Ethereum
fork. Fork just basically, the way I understand it in this context, means I have this copy. I had this software on the disk. I just copied it,
Right.
and now this server is running with Ethereum,
Okay.
etc. At this point, there's no fork.
There's no fork. Okay.
Yeah, and then all of us will set up our nodes,
Okay.
mining nodes,
Right.
and then transactions will come through, and the mining nodes will confirm or commit the blocks based on whatever the consensus mechanism is, work or authority, whichever we have is set up for this. We'll just go on from there. So from that point of view, there's no forking at it. Forking is the one. It's like the Big Bang, right?
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
a new universe has happened, and that universe is independent of the other, unless we come up with those hyperlinks between the two universes. The mighty change.
Exactly, yeah.
So,
What happened with Sandcastle? Because wasn't it running like from the computer? Like the server was running on the computer?
Yeah, so what happened for the first week, we used a micro, and essentially our S stats went down because I had too many applications on that one micro server, and that's when I realized, oh, S stats has to be by itself on one micro. Yeah, is that what you're talking about? Or?
Yeah, Patrick was mentioning something, or Alberto. I'm sorry, Alberto was mentioning.
Yeah.
So in this case, so we created a copy. We created our own separate tree of Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the steps that we took to accomplish that, how would what would be different if we instead were just to set up a version of Ethereum?
Oh, like if you just mined Ethereum?
Right. So what is it that we did it additionally as opposed to just taking that computer and
start mining, right? So like you said, we created our own network. So it's a separate from Ethereum's network. And it has no relation at all to the actual Ethereum network.
Right.
So any transactions that happen on that network are separate. So I guess that what you mean?
So I guess it's more me just being new to it all. If you wanted to connect to Ethereum,
yeah,
you didn't have to go and download the get and the doc and all that. You just go to, I guess you just go to Ethereum and register as a node, and you're off and running.
Yep, that's right.
yeah, so for these folks who are with these mining, they just link to the
They just
original.
okay.
They're just a node on the original.
They're just a node on the original.
Those are good questions. All right, for the next one, I'm just going to use a pre-made image that's already ready for Puppeth. Why? Clicking is strange on a Mac. Launch. Since it's going to be a minor, and we did a proof of work, I'm going to do a medium. Yep, should be good. Security groups, okay, that doesn't look right. Alright, so I'm just doing the same steps from before when I launched the server, and this time it's going to be a medium. I'm going to launch it. I choose the private key that we used earlier, that we created, and then launch. And as soon as that's done launching, then we'll deploy a miner onto it. So yeah, if you have any more questions in the meantime, feel free to ask.
So this is the node that you're initializing?
Yeah, so I'm getting a medium server up for it.
Now, on AWS, microserver is free for the year, but when you step up to a medium, then there's a cost involved.
So I think for EC2 servers, you get, so micro is part of the free tier eligibility, and I think you get up to like how many ever hours are in a month, that amount of hours for free per month. So that's why you can have one running for free for a year, essentially. Does that make sense?
It's basically AWS way of giving developers a chance to do something when production is not. Production
Oh, okay.
is not going to run on micro.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, it's like
Gotcha.
giving a freebie, just like IBM gives you that Bluemix.
Yeah.
Bluemix, IBM's platform
Okay.
for like, only while you're doing
While you're developing,
developing, etc. But
when you go into
production,
production and it's going to be resource intensive,
Mm-hmm.
the micro's not going to work. You need to step up to the medium or even higher up.
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
Jeff Bezos is going to take money from you.
yeah.
Build its rocket ships.
Yeah, he's all right.
Well, yeah, I guess how easy is it to abstract, what the Ethereum is doing from whatever the server provider is doing? Like, can you,
Well,
is
you
it
could
integrated?
you could just download it for any other server. You just want to
Yeah.
replicate it, right?
What's good about AWS is it has a lot of different hardware, and so at a click of a button, you can easily scale your servers, and if you need more memory, you can get more memory very
Well,
easily.
I guess the question being, in a post-Amazon world, if that ever exists in the future, because like this whole debate with
Centralized.
decentralized.
Yeah.
It's like, well, are we really decentralizing, or are we just creating another abstraction layer?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But your nodes are not, don't have to be on AWS. They could be on Azure, they could be somebody's, this guy is on no server.
Well, just, I mean, in my mind, I think of all the e-waste that exists out there that could doing something instead of sitting in a landfill almost.
Right now, if you look at it between Unix, Microsoft Azure, and AWS, I think that's 99% of the cloud. I'm sure there are more, but
Well, that's not taken into account. Well, yeah, I guess AWS is pretty.
yeah,
In
between
China, they have like the
AWS is the
Alibaba.
number one. They are the most. Then it's Microsoft Azure, and then IBM's Unix, or whatever, like they keep on changing their name. But I don't know what else is there.
So with those three, that they're providing about 90% of.
So I guess you're saying, are you looking towards a vision of decentralization, like complete decentralization?
With the whole IoT thing, I mean,
Yeah.
I think smart home, smart buildings, like they're going to have localized server stacks.
So each home will be like a node kind of thing?
Each home will have a server closet, each home will be a node. Because you're doing the smart home, you're going to have all the devices. You're going to be doing smart cities, you're going to have all the devices.
Yeah.
So like now with the whole edge computing thing where it's like putting more of the compute on the device side, where you can just put that single board computer.
You get a lot of power.
No, what am I saying?
You're a startup.
Yeah.
Dollar is too much.
You say $10,000 a month.
For production version.
Chip on a board, computer on a board, and
Yeah, that's what I.
processors
So,
on the board,
which means
on the device.
you have to
And every year it gets cheaper for.
But I mean, I've been talking with Michael for a long time now, and next week is when we're planning to do the Raincoin launch.
Oh yeah.
So, which is cool because I didn't even know, like, I didn't know you were setting it up through AWS.
Oh, okay. So is that like? So I guess originally you were thinking of having your own servers, or?
But it turns out that we have our devices running on AWS, and I have all these credits because I was in Tampa Bay Wave, and they give like the new startups each get like $10,000 worth of AWS credits.
Oh, okay.
And the challenge is, I think they expire in October, so just putting all the pieces together here, and it would be pretty fun to just launch the Raincoin Proof of Authority network and just run it on AWS and do some sample transactions.
I think for you it would be good to also investigate other networks
What do you mean?
like Hyperledger and all the different, just to see what pros and cons of each network is.
Well, I've already done a proof of concept with last summer in Frankfurt, where we had a smart bartender that when you paid it F, it would pour you a shot. So it's kind of like this person-to-machine transaction because the Raspberry Pi that was running it was had like a wallet address and it had a logic. So like when the wallet address received a credit, then it would
Pour
like,
shot.
Exactly. And then you press a button and then it pours the shot. So
So-
that's where.
So that was something you had already, like physically?
Yeah, we built that last summer. I mean, it was just for like a week-long competition, but
Oh, nice.
It's amazing how, I mean, even though this is a little complex in the beginning,
Mhm.
you do this enough times, you can do it in your sleep, almost.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
So the cost of launching your own cryptocurrency is like just the day it takes to configure it.
Yeah, exactly.
And just if you have the cash to pay the AWS bill.
Yep.
Okay, right.
But if you, I mean,
And it's not that bad. I mean, it's like $35 a medium instance.
well, the interoperability between whatever coin you're running on your side chain, and if you can create it so that it can be very easily fungible between Ether and whatever your coin is, then that would give it a lot more value as well, or at least utility.
Mhm.
It was the class.
But is that still with thinking about having your coin on a proof of authority network? So until there's that interoperability, I mean, or
Yeah. Well, okay. So the question is, are people buying the coin with dollars or with Ethereum?
I see.
Ideally, you want them to like
Oh,
it's a smoother onboard into the ecosystem using
Ethereum.
ethers because they can also exit the ecosystem with ethers too.
Oh, okay.
Because ideally, it's getting locked into a smart contract,
Yeah.
a multi-signature wallet where the funds come in and they get locked, and then the funds come out when the action has been successfully completed.
Okay. That's cool. That's really cool. I like that idea. The rain coin's for water, right?
Yeah, harvested rainwater.
Oh. Okay, so I just saw the third industrial revolution, and I feel like that idea was in there about
Well, we
the
hosted
water.
RainCube, my company. We hosted the documentary Third Industrial Revolution here.
I
like 2 weeks
missed
ago.
it. I missed
So
it.
you learned about that movie from that event?
I just had it in my head for some reason, and I watched it last night, and
the
I was like,
Internet of Rain. We